You ever try to shut your brain off, but it just won't stop? You're lying in bed, exhausted. You just want to sleep, but your mind? It has other plans. Suddenly, it starts replaying that awkward thing you said 5 years ago. Then, it jumps to your to-do list for tomorrow. Then, it reminds you of a random song lyric you haven't heard in years. And before you know it, an hour has passed, and you're still wide awake. It's like a runaway train you can't stop. And the more you try to force it to stop, the worse it gets. But here's something even stranger. If you sit still and try to predict your next thought, can you do it? Go ahead. Try it now. What happened? Did you notice how thoughts just appear on their own? You didn't ask for them. You didn't choose them. They just showed up. Which raises a serious question. If you're not choosing your thoughts, then who is? Most of us assume we are in control of our minds, that we are the thinker behind our thoughts. But if that were true, wouldn't we be able to turn them off whenever we wanted? Wouldn't we be able to decide exactly what to think and when? Yet, time and time again, thoughts seem to have a life of their own, pulling us in different directions, distracting us, overwhelming us, sometimes even torturing us. It feels like we're at the mercy of something we don't fully understand. Buddhism has a radical answer to this. Over 2,500 years ago, the Buddha sat beneath a Bodhi tree and deeply observed his own mind. He noticed something profound. Thoughts arise and pass on their own, not because there is a thinker behind them, but because of causes and conditions. Like ripples forming on the surface of a lake, each thought emerges due to something before it, an experience, a sensation, a memory. The mind isn't a single, unified thing. It's a process, a constant flow of mental events. Modern science is only now beginning to confirm this. Neuroscientists have found that much of our thinking happens automatically, driven by subconscious processes before we're even aware of them. In fact, research suggests that decisions are made in the brain before we consciously decide them. This means that what we experience as conscious thought may not be as personal as we believe. It's just something happening in the mind, like weather patterns in the sky. But if thoughts are not personal, if they arise and pass without a central thinker, then why do we cling to them so tightly? Why do we mistake them for who we are? The answer is simple. The mind is constantly trying to create a sense of stability, a sense of me. The endless stream of thoughts, emotions, and memories gives us the illusion of a continuous self, a thinker behind the thinking. But what if that thinker is just another thought? What if, rather than being the source of our thoughts, we are simply the space in which they appear? This is not just an abstract idea. It's something that can be observed directly. The next time you catch yourself lost in thought, pause for a moment. Instead of identifying with the thought, "I am thinking this," just watch it. See how it comes and goes, how it fades away just as easily as it appeared. If you are the thinker, then who is watching the thought? Once you see this clearly, everything begins to change. The mind is no longer an enemy to fight or control. Thoughts are no longer something to suppress or chase. Instead, they are simply passing clouds in the vast sky of awareness. Buddhism doesn't just offer a theory. It offers a way to directly experience this truth for yourself. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. Chapter 1. Where do thoughts come from? You're in the middle of something important, maybe working, reading, or just trying to relax, when suddenly, a random thought pops into your mind. It could be a memory from years ago, a worry about the future, or even a song you haven't heard in ages. You didn't choose to think it. It just appeared. But where did it come from? And more importantly, why do thoughts keep coming, even when we don't want them to? There's a famous Zen story about a young monk named Hashin. One day, he went to his master, frustrated. "Master, my mind is restless. No matter how hard I try to focus, thoughts keep intruding. How can I make them stop?" His teacher smiled and said, Come with me." They walked to a nearby river. The master took a stick and swirled it in the water, creating ripples. Then he let the stick go, and the water slowly settled on its own. "Do you see?" the master asked. Trying to stop thoughts is like trying to smooth the water with your hands. It only creates more ripples. Most of us assume that we control our minds, that we are the ones generating our thoughts. But if that were true, wouldn't we be able to decide exactly what to think and when? Wouldn't we be able to turn off unwanted thoughts at will? The reality is, thoughts seem to arise on their own, without our permission. And the more we try to control them, the more unpredictable they become. Buddhism offers a profound explanation for this phenomenon. The Buddha taught that thoughts don't come from a single, fixed self, but rather from a complex web of causes and conditions. This is known as dependent origination, the idea that everything, including our thoughts, arises due to interconnected factors. Just like a fire needs fuel to keep burning, our thoughts are triggered by past experiences, emotions, and external stimuli. Think about the last time a smell triggered a memory. Maybe you walked past a bakery and, without warning, you were transported back to childhood, remembering the scent of your grandmother's kitchen. Or maybe a particular song reminded you of a past relationship, bringing back emotions you thought were long gone. This is dependent origination in action. The thought didn't arise randomly. It was caused by something. Neuroscience supports this idea. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Benjamin Libet conducted a groundbreaking experiment. He found that the brain begins preparing for a decision before we consciously choose it. In other words, the brain is already working behind the scenes before we become aware of a thought. Daniel Kahneman, a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist, describes this as the difference between fast thinking and slow thinking. Most of our thoughts are automatic, shaped by past conditioning, rather than consciously chosen. This aligns perfectly with what the Buddha observed 2,500 years ago, that thoughts don't belong to an independent self, but are just mental events arising due to past causes. But if thoughts are not entirely within our control, then why do we identify with them so strongly? Why do we believe that I am thinking this instead of simply a thought is happening? The answer lies in the mind's deep-seated habit of constructing a sense of self. We tend to see thoughts as mine because we are conditioned to believe that there is an I behind them. But if we look closer, we might see something different. Try this experiment. For the next 10 seconds, try to predict your next thought. Close your eyes. Focus. What will it be? Were you able to do it? Or did the very act of watching change the way thoughts appeared? This simple exercise reveals something crucial. We don't control our thoughts in the way we assume we do. If we were truly the thinkers of our thoughts, wouldn't we be able to predict them with certainty? Instead, thoughts seem to arise from nowhere, like ripples forming on the surface of a lake. The Buddha deeply observed this process under the Bodhi tree. He noticed that thoughts, sensations, and emotions all arose and passed away, not because there was a thinker behind them, but because of prior causes and conditions. They were just mental events, impermanent and ever-changing. Alan Watts, a modern philosopher, who popularized Eastern wisdom in the West, once said, "Muddy water is best cleared by leaving it alone." The harder we try to control our thoughts, the more turbulence we create. But if we simply observe, they settle naturally. Understanding this can change everything. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by an endless stream of thoughts, we can begin to see them for what they really are: fleeting, conditioned, and ultimately not who we are. Thoughts arise, but we don't have to believe them. They appear, but we don't have to react to them. And once we realize this, we begin to find something that has always been there: the awareness behind the thoughts, the stillness in which they arise and fade away. This simple shift in perception can bring a profound sense of peace. Because when we stop identifying with every thought that crosses our mind, We stop being prisoners of our own thinking. And instead of trying to control the river, we learn to sit by the shore and watch it flow. Chapter 2. The Illusion of the Thinker Who's Controlling the Mind. You're driving down the highway, focused on the road ahead. The music is playing softly in the background. Everything seems normal, until suddenly, your mind takes a sharp detour. Out of nowhere, you're thinking about an embarrassing moment from high school. Then, a regret from years ago creeps in. Then, a worry about something you need to do tomorrow. Where did these thoughts come from? You weren't consciously trying to remember them. You didn't ask for them. But there they are, uninvited, unstoppable, pulling you away from the present moment. This raises a profound question. If you're not choosing your thoughts, then who is? Most people believe that they are the thinker behind their thoughts, the one controlling their mind. But if that were true, wouldn't you be able to stop thinking on command? Wouldn't you be able to decide exactly what to think and when? Instead, thoughts arise like waves on the ocean, sometimes calm, sometimes chaotic, but always moving, whether you want them to or not. Buddhism challenges the very idea of a thinker behind our thoughts. The Buddha taught that what we call I is just a collection of ever-changing mental events, thoughts, emotions, memories, and perceptions, without a fixed, central entity holding them together. Imagine a chain of dominoes falling. Each domino knocks over the next, but there is no single controller deciding which one falls first. The mind works in the same way. One thought leads to another, triggered by causes and conditions, but there is no permanent self orchestrating it all. Try a simple experiment. Close your eyes for a few moments and search for the thinker inside your head. Where is it? Can you find the part of you that is generating thoughts? Or do thoughts just appear on their own? The Buddha broke human experience down into 5 aggregates: panchakhanda, form, rupa, the physical body; feelings, vedana, sensations of pleasure, pain, or neutrality; perception, sana, the ability to recognize and label experiences; mental formations, sakra; thoughts, intentions, and habits; consciousness, vaya; awareness itself. Everything we experience fits into these 5 categories. Thoughts belong to mental formations, meaning that even the feeling of I am thinking is just another mental event. There is no permanent, separate thinker behind them, only the process of thinking. This concept is not just a spiritual idea, it's backed by modern science. Benjamin Libet's famous experiment in the 1980s revealed that the brain initiates decisions before we become consciously aware of them. His research showed that electrical activity in the brain, called the readiness potential, occurs milliseconds before a person consciously decides to act. In other words, our sense of making a conscious choice may just be the brain informing us after the fact. The philosopher Alan Watts put it simply: the reason you think you have control over your thoughts is because you keep telling yourself the story that you do. Another fascinating example comes from split brain research. Studies conducted on patients who had the connection between the left and right hemispheres of their brain severed. When one hemisphere was given a task, the other, having no access to the original reasoning, would still come up with a rational explanation for why the action was taken. The mind does this all the time. It stitches together a narrative, making us believe there is a single self controlling everything, even when the reality is far more fragmented. But if there is no thinker, then why does it feel like there is? The answer lies in how the brain constructs a sense of self. The mind weaves together memories, emotions, and thoughts to create a feeling of continuity. But just because a story is convincing doesn't mean it's real. A powerful story from Buddhist tradition illustrates this illusion. One day, a monk named Kamaka was struggling with the idea of no self. He understood intellectually that the body and mind were impermanent, but deep down, he still felt there was a me experiencing everything. As he meditated, he examined each of the 5 aggregates one by one, trying to find the core of his identity. He looked at his body, his emotions, his thoughts, even his awareness itself. But no matter where he looked, he couldn't find a fixed self. Finally, he realized that even the feeling of "I am thinking" was just another mental formation, not a thinker, but another thought. With this insight, his sense of attachment to the self dissolved, and he found deep peace. This shift in perspective changes everything. Instead of feeling trapped by an endless stream of thoughts, you begin to see them for what they really are, just passing phenomena. Instead of "I am anxious," you recognize anxiety is arising. Instead of "I am thinking," you see thinking is happening. The difference is subtle, but it is the key to mental freedom. So the next time your thoughts pull you into the past or the future, remember, you don't have to stop the river. Just step back and watch it flow. Chapter 3: The Sky and the Clouds, Awareness Beyond Thinking. Imagine you're lying in a field, looking up at the sky. The clouds drift by, some light and wispy, others dark and heavy. Sometimes the sky is completely clear, and other times a storm rolls in. But no matter how many clouds appear, one thing remains constant: the sky itself. The sky doesn't resist the clouds, nor does it cling to them. It simply allows them to come and go. Now, think about your thoughts. They drift in and out of your mind just like the clouds in the sky. Some are pleasant and light, others are stormy and overwhelming. But here's the key: you are not the clouds. You are the sky. Your thoughts, like the clouds, are temporary. They come and go, but they do not define you. The mistake we make is believing that we are our thoughts, when in reality, we are the awareness in which thoughts arise and pass. A man once came to the Buddha, frustrated by his restless mind. "My thoughts are out of control," he said. "They distract me, consume me, and I feel like I'm constantly fighting them." The Buddha smiled and pointed to the sky. "Do you see the sky?" The man nodded. "And do you see the clouds moving across it?" The man nodded again. "Would you say that the clouds are the sky?" The man hesitated. "No, of course not," he said. The Buddha replied. "Then why do you believe your thoughts are you?" This is the essence of mindfulness, recognizing that thoughts come and go, but there is always something deeper, something unchanging beneath them. When we stop identifying with every passing thought, we discover a vast space of stillness, just like the open sky behind the clouds. Neuroscience supports this. Research shows that when people practice mindfulness, the default mode network, DMN, the part of the brain responsible for overthinking and self-referential thinking, becomes quieter. This means that when we cultivate awareness, we shift from being trapped in thoughts to simply observing them. Psychologist Stephen Hayes, founder of Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, ACT, explains a concept called cognitive diffusion, a technique for detaching from thoughts. Instead of saying, "I am anxious," we can say, "I am noticing that anxiety is arising." This simple shift changes everything. It creates space between us and our thoughts, allowing them to pass more freely, just like clouds in the sky. A powerful example of this comes from Anuruddha, one of the Buddha's closest disciples. Anuruddha struggled with restlessness in meditation. His mind was always jumping from one thought to another, making it impossible to focus. Frustrated, he sought the Buddha's guidance. The Buddha told him, "Do not fight the thoughts. Do not suppress them. Simply observe them, as you would watch clouds passing through the sky." At first, Anuruddha resisted. He wanted to force his mind into silence. But as he practiced simply watching his thoughts rather than controlling them, something changed. The more he observed, the more thoughts lost their grip on him. He realized that they were just passing events, not personal truths. Eventually, his mind became as vast and open as the sky itself. We can apply this same wisdom to our daily lives. Imagine you're stuck in traffic, running late for an important meeting. Your mind starts racing. This is a disaster. They'll think I'm irresponsible. My whole day is ruined. But instead of getting carried away, you pause and say, worrying is happening. Frustration is arising. You don't push the thoughts away, but you don't let them control you either. You simply notice them, like watching clouds drift across the sky. As Eckhart Tolle puts it, you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. This is the practice of equanimity, upekkha, learning to let thoughts come and go without resistance. It doesn't mean suppressing emotions or becoming numb. It means seeing things as they are, temporary, fleeting, without getting caught in the storm. So the next time a thought pulls you into the past or the future, remember, you don't have to chase the clouds. Just be the sky. Chapter 4. How to live with this understanding. Practical applications. You're driving home after a long day, but instead of being present, your mind is somewhere else. You're replaying a conversation from earlier, wondering if you said something wrong. Then, you start thinking about your to-do list for tomorrow. Before you know it, you've arrived home, but you barely remember the drive. Most of us live like this, constantly lost in thought, jumping from the past to the future. But what if you could step out of this mental loop? What if, instead of being controlled by your thoughts, you could simply watch them come and go, like clouds passing in the sky? A man once visited a Zen master, desperate for peace. "Master," he said, "my mind is restless. My thoughts consume me, and I feel trapped in them. How can I make them stop?" The master handed him a teacup and began pouring tea. He kept pouring, even after the cup was full, spilling tea all over the table. The man shouted, "Stop! The cup is overflowing." The master smiled. "Your mind is like this cup. It is overflowing with thoughts. Before you can control it, you must first learn to notice it." This is the first step to living with awareness, realizing that thoughts happen, but you don't have to engage with them. Most of us don't recognize when we're caught in thoughts. We instantly identify with them. "I am anxious. I am not good enough. I have to fix this." But the moment you pause and simply notice a thought, something shifts. You are no longer inside the thought. You are watching it. Try this right now. Close your eyes for a few seconds and just observe. What thoughts are appearing? Don't resist them. Don't engage with them. Just watch. Can you see how they come and go on their own, like passing clouds? Neuroscience supports this. Studies show that when we practice mindfulness, the default mode network, DMN, the part of the brain responsible for overthinking, becomes less active. This means that when you step back and watch your thoughts, rather than getting caught in them, your brain physically rewires itself to be calmer and clearer. A monk once asked the Buddha, "How can I stop being controlled by my emotions?" The Buddha took a stick and drew a line in the dirt. "If someone insults you," he said, "you can react immediately, like this line, drawn in soft earth, easily disturbed." Then he carved another line into stone. Or you can wait, observe, and let the emotion settle, like this line in stone, unaffected by passing winds. The ability to pause before reacting is one of the most powerful life skills you can develop. Between every thought and action, there is a space. In that space, you have a choice. Will you react impulsively, or will you respond with awareness? Imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Your first thought might be, "What an idiot." You might feel the urge to honk aggressively or curse under your breath. But what if, instead, you noticed your reaction? What if you took a deep breath and simply thought, "Frustration is arising"? When you do this, the thought loses its grip. Instead of being controlled by it, you simply observe it, like a cloud drifting across the sky. This is the practice of equanimity, Upeka, learning to let thoughts and emotions come and go without resistance. It doesn't mean suppressing feelings or ignoring problems. It means recognizing them without getting swept away. A traveler once came to a Zen master and said, "Master, my thoughts are filled with doubt and fear. I feel lost." The master pointed to the sky. "Do you see the clouds?" he asked. The traveler nodded. "Are they always there?" The traveler shook his head. "No, they come and go." The master smiled. "Then why do you believe your thoughts will stay forever?" The ultimate practice is to realize you are not your thoughts. They come and go, like clouds in the sky, like waves in the ocean. What remains is something deeper, the awareness behind them. Psychologist Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The moment you see thoughts for what they are, temporary, conditioned, and not truly you break free from their control. Living with this understanding doesn't mean thoughts will stop. They won't. The mind will continue to generate worries, judgments, and memories. The difference is that now you know how to work with them. Instead of being lost in thought, you observe. Instead of identifying with every worry, you let it pass. Instead of reacting impulsively, you pause and respond. Instead of trying to stop the river, you step back and watch it flow. This is not just a philosophy, it is a daily practice, a way of being in the world. So next time you feel overwhelmed by thoughts, remember, you are not the storm. You are the sky. Chapter 5. The Ultimate Question: Who's thinking? You're lying in bed at night, exhausted, but your mind won't let you sleep. Thoughts appear out of nowhere, about work, about something embarrassing you said years ago, about what you need to do tomorrow. You try to silence them, but the harder you try, the more persistent they become, and suddenly you wonder, why am I thinking this? Where do these thoughts even come from? And if I'm not choosing them, then who is? For most of our lives, we assume there is a thinker behind our thoughts, a permanent eye directing the mind like a conductor leading an orchestra. But if that were true, wouldn't we have full control over what we think? Wouldn't we be able to stop thinking on command? Yet, no matter how hard we try, thoughts come uninvited, often when we least expect them. It's as if we are passengers, not drivers, in our own minds. A traveler once visited a Zen master and asked, "Master, I understand that thoughts come and go, but I still feel like I exist as the thinker. Who am I?" The master smiled and said, "Come with me." He led the traveler to a river and pointed at a whirlpool swirling in the water. Does this whirlpool have an independent existence, or is it just a pattern created by the moving water? The traveler hesitated, then replied, "It looks solid, but it's just flowing water." The master nodded. And so it is with the mind. Thoughts arise like ripples in a river, but there is no permanent thinker behind them, only the movement of the mind itself. This was the Buddha's insight over 2,500 years ago. What we call I is not a fixed entity, but a collection of ever-changing thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. Like a whirlpool in a river, the self appears real, but when examined closely, it dissolves into a pattern of movement, empty of any solid core. Neuroscience supports this. Studies by Benjamin Libet show that the brain begins forming decisions before we are even aware of them. In his famous experiment, participants were asked to press a button at a time of their choosing while researchers monitored their brain activity. What they found was astonishing. The brain showed activity related to the decision before the participants consciously chose to press the button. This suggests that what we perceive as conscious thought may actually be the brain informing us after the fact, not the other way around. Another fascinating example comes from split brain studies. Patients who have had the connection between their brain's hemispheres severed show something remarkable. When one hemisphere is given information, the other hemisphere Having no access to that information still creates a logical explanation for an action it doesn't fully understand. This suggests that our brain is constantly stitching together a story of self to create the illusion of a single, unified thinker, even when there is none. But if there is no thinker, then who are we? The Buddha's answer was simple but profound. We are the awareness that knows the thoughts, not the thinker that generates them. Imagine the sky and the clouds. Thoughts are like clouds. They come and go, changing shape, appearing and disappearing. But the sky itself, the space in which the clouds appear, remains untouched. This awareness is always present, even when thoughts are not. A monk once asked the Buddha, "Master, if there is no self, then who is aware?" The Buddha simply smiled and remained silent. This was known as noble silence, not because he didn't have an answer, but because the question itself was based on a false assumption. Asking who is aware assumes that awareness must belong to someone. But what if awareness simply is? This realization is not just intellectual. It must be experienced directly when you sit quietly and observe thoughts without identifying with them. Something shifts. You begin to see that you are not your thoughts. You are the space in which they arise. You are the awareness itself, vast and unchanging. This understanding changes everything. Fear, worry, and anger lose their grip because they are no longer yours. They are just passing clouds in the vast sky of awareness. Instead of struggling with thoughts, you simply let them come and go, knowing they are not who you are. Instead of trying to fix your mind, you learn to watch it with curiosity and detachment. The greatest freedom comes not from controlling thoughts, but from seeing through the illusion of the thinker. Because once you realize that thoughts arise on their own, you no longer feel the need to cling to them, resist them, or let them define you. You see them for what they are, impermanent, conditioned, and empty of a fixed self. So the next time a thought appears, instead of asking, "Why am I thinking this?" try asking, "Who is aware of this thought?" The moment you look, you may find that there is no thinker, only the vast, open sky of awareness, watching the clouds pass by. Conclusion: the path to mental liberation. You started this journey with a simple but profound question. Who is thinking? At first, it seemed like an impossible mystery, a paradox that the mind couldn't solve. But as we explored together, you uncovered something profound. Thoughts are not personal. They arise and pass, shaped by experiences, emotions, and conditions beyond your control. They are like waves on the ocean, like clouds drifting through the sky. But you are not the waves. You are not the clouds. You are the vast awareness that remains, unshaken and untouched. Think back to where you were at the beginning. Perhaps you felt trapped in your thoughts, believing that every worry, every judgment, every memory defined you. But now there is space. The next time a thought arises, you will know, this is just a thought. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to fight it. I can simply watch it come and go. And in that moment, you will taste freedom. This isn't just an idea, it's a shift in how you live. It changes the way you deal with stress, with fear, with uncertainty. It allows you to respond to life with clarity rather than reacting with habit. And it reveals a simple truth that has been there all along. You are already free. The sky was never broken, only hidden by passing storms. But the journey doesn't end here. In fact, this is just the beginning. Awareness is like a muscle. The more you train it, the stronger it becomes. Imagine what life could be like if you lived from this place of stillness every day. What if, instead of being caught in overthinking, you could experience life fully, with presence and ease? That is what this path offers. If this video has shifted your perspective, share it with someone who might need this message today. And if you want to continue exploring the nature of the mind, mindfulness, and deeper wisdom, there's so much more waiting for you. Subscribe, stay connected, and let's keep growing together. You are not the storm. You are the sky. And no matter how strong the winds may blow, the sky remains. That is your true nature. That is your freedom.